Hello there, I'm the MCU Guy and welcome to the MCU podcast. We are back behind the MCU Tavern if you are watching us on Facebook or YouTube, on the YouTubes. If you're not, if you're just listening to us, it won't sound any different to you. But we are here, we're behind the bar. Welcome all. This is episode 18, I believe, of the MCU podcast. This one's only going to be a small, little mini episode as opposed to some of the normal ones. There's going to be no real big topic of discussion. We're just going to be hitting some of the big MCU news. The reason why is because I'm going to be doing another couple of episodes in a few weeks' time. So after the finale of WandaVision, I'll do an episode then, and then I'm going to do an episode previewing Falcon the Winter Soldier with good friend of the podcast, the Avenge Nerd. So this one's going to be a bit of a short and sweet one, where he's going to tackle some of the big news that's happened over the last couple of weeks. And you know what? We've had quite a lot of really interesting news. Probably some of the biggest ones will be some of the ones that got revealed in fact, yesterday. But we're going to talk about that last, I think, because it's such a big one. But first of all, I'm going to introduce my guest here, James from Donaghys. I'd say royalty of the podcast now. I think you've achieved royalty status now. You and Scott both been on a certain amount of times. So
fantastic, yeah.
Good to have you back.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here. Hi, everybody.
And it's good to have you in person because we actually do live together, so it does make it a lot easier, and we don't have to do any sort of social distancing or Zoom things, which is always good to do it in the real world. So let's get straight to some of the big news. We're going to start with this one. So Ryan Coogler is coming back to the MCU after Black Panther 2, and we're going to be talking about the fact that he is going to be directing and writing a Wakanda Disney Plus show. So, Wakanda Disney Plus show, what do we think that's going to be about, James?
Well, I saw a theory that I was a little bit intrigued by, that the series could take place in between Black Panthers 1 and 2, and it could be the sister of Black Panther himself, Shuri.
Shuri.
Yes. There you go. Yeah, well, we got that. Who could take on the mantle, perhaps, and it could be a journey, like the hero's journey into sort of becoming the female Black Panther, and sort of dealing with the loss of her brother. And of course, we know the late great Chadwick Boseman died last year, and it'd be a good tribute to him, you know. And if she's dealing with that, of course, she lost her father as well. So it could be again about coping with loss, but also that striving to sort of be the leader of Wakanda.
Okay, that does sound like a really interesting story. I mean, I think the angle before they even came up with the idea of the Wakanda TV show after the passing of Chadwick, I think it was a fact that a lot of people were saying that Shuri would be taking over the mantle in Black Panther 2, which would be, obviously, it'd take away your theory from your prediction for the TV show. But in theory, if they did that, they could also go in a completely different direction with Black Panther 2. Which would be a bit more interesting because I think most people assume that Shuri is going to take the mantle of Black Panther because it kind of sets the whole thing up. Personally, I'd like to see the Disney Plus show focus more on the origins of Wakanda and how it came to rise and with the prominence and how the use of vibranium helped them develop all these like technological marvels and how essentially they ran from day to day and just it kind of be like a grounded story that just shows the development of Wakanda whilst dealing with the outside threats. So they could even revisit the situation in which the vibranium was stolen by Ulysses Claw. Could be a way that they delve into that story because we need to get Ulysses Claw back in the MCU because although he unfortunately died in Black Panther, it's a fantastic character and I think a lot of people would agree that we didn't really use him as well as we probably could have done. But it'd be great to see him back. But Anyway, they're going to bring this Wakanda TV show to life. I think it's going to be incredible because even Wakanda in general, like the world building that they did with the fake country of Wakanda, well, fictional. That's probably the best way. Yeah, non-fiction. But yeah, it's fiction.
Fiction isn't real.
Non-fiction is real life. Yeah, I got myself confused there. So the fictional world of Wakanda, it'd be good to see them like develop that even further because again it was such a spectacle seeing it the first time in Black Panther. It'd just be fantastic to see it again and expanded upon. So we're very excited anyway. Our next bit of news comes again with another Disney Plus show. There's a bit of a trend at the moment with Disney Plus shows because obviously there's quite a good one going on right at the moment. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is supposed to hit our screens in less than a month's time. War Machine, Rhodey is coming to that show. I'm very excited. Everyone loves Rhodey. I believe you've got some strong opinions about War Machine and who is the better actor as War Machine.
Well, listen, you know, I am a big fan of. We're all a big fan of the first Iron Man film, of course. Everybody is. Kicked the whole thing off and made the MCU what it is. You know, made it possible. And then, of course, to have his sidekick, who of course ended up being War Machine, but of course at the time was Rhodey, was played by Terrence Howard. And I thought, I mean, I'm not one of those people that had read the comic books beforehand and had like already a grounded idea of what Rhodey should be like on the screen, but I kind of bought into that character, the way he played it. And I know we have differing opinions on this, which is fine. It's all part of it. But then when Iron Man 2 came around, and it was, of course, Don Cheadle, the Don himself, who's a phenomenal actor, as we know. But it just took me out of things a little bit. I know people get recast. The Hulk was recast, of course. You know, these things happen. You don't even realise these days with the Hulk, do you? You just accept that. Like, it's so.
Especially the fact that not a lot of people really rate the Hulk film in general.
No, there's that.
I think a lot of people's Hulk journey starts at Avengers 1 and then just goes from there. Which it's just the Hulk that everyone has come to love.
Yeah, but the thing with I mean, I don't have a massively. I mean, I joke. I emphasise it for joke purposes, really. But I do. There is a small part of me when I watched the first Iron Man film, and he looks at the suits of armour, doesn't he? And he's there, and it's Terrence Howard, and he sort of goes, "Next time, baby." And I wanted to see him in the suit, so I guess that's just personal bias. And then, of course, you know, you realise there was stuff behind the scenes, and he wasn't going to be, which is fine. But yeah, it's nice that Rhodey is going to get a run out and get the chance to spread his wings, no pun intended, with Falcon.
Yeah, and it's basically it's going to be from what I've seen and from what we understand, it's going to be Rhodey's. I think his only inclusion in anything coming up to his show, Armor Wars, which comes to Disney Plus. Not yet got a release date, but we know that it's coming in this phase. So it's going to be good to see War Machine. I'm not sure how they're going to play this, or if it's going to be a small cameo or a big cameo. I mean, there's cameos galore being rumoured for a lot of these Disney Plus shows, which we're going to touch on later on. So it's just another way that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is bridging the gaps between all these shows and all the films. And yeah, it's very exciting to see and to know that we're going to get at least another Avenger in this show, along with some of the other lower characters. It's interesting to see.
Looks like a kind of buddy comedy. The way the trailer was put together, I know it can be misleading, but it looks like a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of enjoyment in it. The action scenes look good, and obviously they always are. But yeah, the chemistry that those two have already, you can sort of tell. There's a sort of dynamic going there, and they had it was like a therapist, wasn't it, sort of session almost, where they were trying to cope with each other. Again, just talk about the trailer, but yeah, I'm excited for that. It's good.
No, I think it's going to be good, and it's going to be more MCU style content than maybe WandaVision is. Obviously, now WandaVision is kind of evolving into more of an MCU kind of show, but at the start, obviously, it was completely different, and people were not expecting it to be like that. I think this one's going to be more MCU, I think it's going to be a lot what a lot of MCU fans come to expect from something like this, which I don't know. Well, we know that it's going to be action packed, and that's a lot of things that most people go for with these kind of films and TV shows. So it's going to be great. It's going to be great. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Last thing on the Disney Plus shows. So Hawkeye is in the middle of filming at the moment. We've seen lots of behind the scenes set pics. It all looks pretty insane at the moment. I saw a video of I think it's like the Tracksuit Gang. I think that's the name of this gang. I don't know if they're going to be the main villains of the show or not, but they're obviously playing a part in this upcoming scene that they're filming at the moment. Haley Stansfield and Jeremy Renner. But again, it's cool to see that more shows are shaping up, and although no one really likes spoilers and we don't like things to be leaked too much because we like to still speculate and we like to discuss these kind of things, but it's nice to see that you can see things are happening again. Obviously, throughout the whole pandemic, with everything's come to a halt, but it's good to see little snippets of stuff and little behind the scene things we can actually take little bits of information from and try and guess and speculate things, which is it's always fun to do and it's really nice to see. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the fact that Florence Pugh was spotted flying out to Atlanta to film scenes for this show. Now, Florence Pugh plays Yelena Belova in the upcoming Black Widow film. We obviously haven't seen that yet, although it's already been filmed, so they already know how that pans out. My question to you, James, is, although we haven't seen the film, do we think that this is going to be a continuation from where we are in the current timeline, or do you think it's going to be a flashback scene? Because one way, if it's a continuation, might suggest that Yelena Belova takes over as the new Black Widow. Or, if it's a flashback scene, it might flash back to possibly a Budapest scene that we are rumoured to see in Black Widow. What do you think? Do we think Yelena Belova's being handed the baton to Black Widow and they're continuing the character through her, or not?
I think that she is, but I would say it at the same time it's almost impossible to know, and that's a very vague answer. But no, because the thing is, you can say that for anything, but it's particularly this kind of project, because she should have had her day in the sun. Like, the character should have already been immersed in the MCU by now. We should have seen that film in October.
Yeah.
And it's got constantly pushed back. And you've got to think about with the Hawkeye project, the Hawkeye show, that's going to have implications massively, because the people behind it, I don't know if they wanted to pull the trigger on her character. Well, clearly they wanted to do it earlier. I mean, is Hawkeye? Is Black Widow still coming out before Hawkeye? We were assuming. That's
Hawkeye's due out at the end of the year.
So it's kind of difficult because the intentions have had to change, and all these projects have been put on hold, understandably. But from what I've seen, it seems logical that she'll take on the using the word mantle again, but like taking on the Black Widow sort of persona, if you like. And she was integral to old Clint, wasn't she? So again, they're going to be really tight knit. I see with this project, just to kind of not going off on a tangent, but just Linda Cardinelli is attached to the project. Is that right? So we could have a more family-oriented sort of, at least grounding for Clint there, and that'd be good. That'd be nice to see, because maybe his attempt is to sort of retire again, and as soon as I thought I was out, they pull me back in type.
I 100% agree with what you're saying there. I mean, that's the reason why they must be doing that. They must be handing over the baton down.
But the tracksuit gang,
yes,
from his past, I believe, a nasty bunch of people from his past, led by some sort of evil clown or something like that. And it could be one of those things. Could even tie in with like the Ronin thing, where he was being
hopefully, with the Yakuza and some of the gangs he was going after.
They could flesh out that story. So,
to be fair, because I mean, it just kind of deserves his comeuppance for that, because he was going around just like killing gang members and stuff, and you'd have thought that, although he was obviously an Avenger, and he was doing it because he was tormented by obviously what had happened with the loss of his family during the blip, or the snap, whichever way he was to call it. No one really likes calling it the blip, but you think that realistically there needs to be some sort of comeuppance for that, because there were no repercussions from that, really, from what it seems like. But if the tracksuit gang is maybe trying to seek revenge on the fact that he might have killed one of their gang members, or maybe the leader of the gang member, or something along them lines, it'd be quite interesting to see. And maybe that's the route they go down. Maybe he's just kind of having to deal with the repercussions of what happened with Endgame, and he's just had to take on a new protege. Maybe that's the way we go. But anyway, we kind of went away from the whole Florence Pugh thing. What I will say is the fact that this is a very small detail, but for anyone who knows anything about Florence Pugh's personal life, she is actually dating Zach Braff. Zach Braff from Scrubs. Now, Zach Braff and Donald Faison, the stars of Scrubs, they host a podcast called Fake Doctors Real Friends, which is a podcast I listen to very frequently. Now, they have a habit recently of bringing on the other halves. So Florence Pugh's made a couple of like guest appearances on the show, like where she's kind of come in, had a chat with the people that are on the call who are asking questions and stuff. And the same with Donald Faison and his wife. Now, Florence hasn't been on for the last 2 episodes, which have aired this week and last week. which would suggest that maybe she wasn't around, because the amount of time she's been on recently would suggest that she's kind of knocking around the house. But if she's not there and she's in Atlanta filming, it's another confirmation, because obviously we get all these kind of rumours and we get reports that she's been spotted and stuff, but unless you're seeing concrete evidence of her on set, you can't ever be too sure. But she wasn't there, and she was seen at the airport, and normally they kind of tiptoe over stuff when it comes to regards to Marvel projects, and when they ask questions about what Florence is doing, they don't really dive too much into it, because I know that Florence is probably worried about getting in lots of trouble. So, so I think that's just another backup. It's only a small detail, but I think it's another suggestion that she was actually filming some scenes for that show. And also, I've got a sneaky suspicion. This is another thing going off on a tangent. I think Donald Faison's going to come into the MCU, but just because of some things that have been said on the podcast. Very, very minimal things, but like they were talking about the fact that what happens if you got really angry and punched your boss, right? But for some strange reason, Donald Faison's first thing was, oh, well, I'm not like I'm going to walk into a room and punch Kevin Feige. And you're like, they had been talking about Marvel stuff in the episode, but not directly at that point. So it's a bit of a strange thing to put in there. And it mentioned in the past that he got like a Christmas like package from Disney, including some Star Wars things. I know he's been in some Star Wars property doing voiceovers and stuff like that, but they referenced him as being part of the Disney family, which is weird, because again, Disney owns a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you wouldn't put it past him.
Possibly, it'd be fantastic to see. I don't know what role Donald Faison would play in the MCU, but it'd be really interesting to see, because Donald Faison is an amazing actor, and it'd be a good comedic actor to bring to the MCU, and we know that the MCU is very good at dulling that kind of humour out, aren't they?
Certainly.
So yeah. Very, very small tangent, Aaron, and I don't know why I had to mention that. It's just something that I've been wanting to share, because it's just the most random thing you can tell people.
Yeah, really. But that's why he's the MCU guy, you see, because he takes look at that, all the clues and
piece them together. So if Donald Faison told the MCU, you hit it here first. Okay. Okay, we're going to continue the theme on Marvel TV, but not Disney Plus. We're going to talk about the fact that Jessica Jones and The Punisher, the rights have now reverted back to Disney from Netflix. It's been the 2 years since both shows have been cancelled, so the rights have officially gone back over to the MCU. Now, obviously there's no confirmation that characters are going to return. Kevin Feige said in the past that the door's kind of always open for some of these characters. Although, does that mean that the door's always open for the same actor or actress? So Kristen Ritter has actually stated on some podcasts before, I think it might have even David Tennant's podcast, where she kind of said that she's probably done with playing Jessica Jones, and she feels like she's done her job with her, and the fact that it might not be something she wants to revisit, which is a shame, because she plays Jess Jones really, really well, and it's one of the best MCU Netflix shows. So it's a shame if we lost her, but I mean, everyone was saying that she was rumoured to turn up in the She-Hulk show, which would be really cool if she did, but I can't see it, unfortunately. But the person who would be up for it is John Bernthal. I think called Bernthal, is that how you say it?
I think so.
Bernthal?
That's Bernthal, I think.
He has stated many times that if the phone rang, he'd be there within a heartbeat. Now, my question to you, James, if you could take The Punisher, what show or film would you put him in?
Wow. Well, okay. Well, for starters, I like the idea of Jessica Jones showing up in She-Hulk, but that's not the question you asked me. The Punisher.
Just think of like The Punisher is obviously just like the most grittiest version of like it's not really a superhero, is he? Because he doesn't do superhero things. He's more just like an assassin.
Well, he's an anti-hero, maybe.
Yeah, he's an anti-hero, but like, so you need to put him in a show that kind of suits what he does. I mean, I've stated in the past, in fact, the last podcast, I think, when we spoke about this, I think I said that I'd like him to be in the Blade film.
Okay, that makes sense to me. But the thing about that is the rating, though. I mean, the fact that these shows, Jessica Jones and The Punisher, seem to be R-rated. Yeah,
they were definitely not PG.
So that's why I'm struggling, because they're not going to. Again, I'm being a bit sort of diverse here, but like when it comes to Deadpool, like coming in possibly into the MCU, and it's
it's 100%.
Well, it's 100% happening.
Yeah.
But you sort of have to round his edges off, or do you? I mean,
well, this is the thing now. In fact, again, with this is something we spoke about in the last podcast. We're trying to figure out how Disney Plus are going to go into the market of rated R stuff. But yesterday, they launched Star, which is just the old Fox properties, and it's like a new sub channel of Disney Plus where Deadpool 2's on there, and loads of other content like Scrubs and How I Met Your Mother and Grey's Anatomy and all these like shows that are obviously got a higher rating than a PG. So they've actually tapped into the adult world or the adult TV shows without really doing anything different. About they've had to set up like parental blocks on it, so obviously so that young children who are watching it can't access that kind of stuff. But it doesn't. It means that they can produce that kind of content because they're making original shows on Star, which are probably going to be over PG, maybe rated R. So I think we could possibly see the rated R films and TV shows enter the MCU. Kevin Feige has said that Deadpool is going to be rated R.
See, that's fine.
And that'd be great if Punisher turned up in Deadpool. You got two guys who are fantastic with guns.
For a start,
that'd be really cool.
And it just might be a little jarring to see someone who is someone like Deadpool or the Punisher. We'll go for the Punisher because that's what we're talking about. But like the Marvel MCU stuff has its own sort of tone, doesn't it? They have dark moments, of course. You know, they have heart wrenching moments, and they have these sort of light moments, like every property does. But it'd be quite jarring if someone that you're used to from such a violent environment comes in. So if they were to pair him with someone like Deadpool or someone, and then soften the edges of both characters together, rather than like if Deadpool was to show up in Spider-Man and just sort of start swearing at Tom Holland, you'd be a bit like, well, okay, So, and it kind of reminds me of it's a kind of a cheap analogy, but it's like wrestling, because in the early days, they were smashing each other over the head with chairs, they were drawing blood, and they were going for a different kind of audience. But like, fast forward 15 years, and you've still got the similar type of characters, similar type of setting, but they can't do those things anymore. For good reason as well, because of the concussions and all the rest of it. But you recognise the scenario, you recognise the characters, but they've just sort of had to water down the product. So I'm not saying that's the same, but if Deadpool was to show up, for instance, I mean, if he turned up in WandaVision in the next episode, for instance, you know that he couldn't do the things that... It's just... Disney can go a little bit brutal when they need to, because the X-Men films that are in Disney, some pretty brutal moments in that. Exactly. So I was thinking, going in, like, this is a Disney film though, it's all going to be sunshine and happiness, but there's some pretty brutal sort of scenes. So it's not that necessarily, but I'm just worried about a contrast in tone. But if I can trust anyone to deal with it, it's the Kevin Feige bunch. Yeah,
and in fact, one thing that we probably should have talked about when we were talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier, how Falcon and Winter Soldier's actually got its most mature rating for any of the Disney properties so far, which is mad. I don't think it's rated. It's definitely not rated R, but it might be a 14, something like that. It might be slightly over, or it might be a 12 with like what do they call it, like adult supervision. Is it 30?
They call it 12A, I think.
12A,
yeah.
I think it might be
over
12A.
Here.
Yeah. So I think that's what they've rated it. So again, they are getting more mature content, and they are pushing the boat that way, which is, again, it's all a step in the right direction if we want to see some of our really, really good MCU characters come into it.
So Scott, as you may be aware, there's a bit of a lockdown on.
Yes, I had heard that.
Lots of people have suddenly got a lot of time on their hands and a smorgasbord of content to choose from to fill that time. How can people find the best nerdy content when there's so much out there?
It's difficult, but don't worry, I have developed a system to find the good stuff.
I'd love to hear it.
So basically, there are 3 criteria that all the best content contains. Animated characters playing in a sport, a team of misfits overcoming impossible odds, and the acting talents of Wayne Knight.
But what if people don't want to watch Space Jam on repeat?
What?
I've got another idea. How about a podcast from 2 down-to-earth guys discussing the best in books, films, comics, music, game and TV series?
That sounds amazing. I'm in.
Excellent. What do we call it?
Into the Nerdiverse, I reckon.
I'd listen to that.
Damn right you would.
So, we're going to talk we're going to take a little trip into Westview and talk about WandaVision. Ever so slightly. Just the tiniest bit, because we've got a full episode coming up with that one. We're 2 episodes away from it finishing. So we've got this week's episode comes out tomorrow, and then we've got the finale episode. All the speculation going around about who this guest star is going to be, who the big reveal is going to be. I want to hear your thoughts on that. Who do you think the big cameo is going to be, and why?
Well, my thoughts on it are, I kind of go a little bit down the middle, and I know it's a bit of a boring take to have, but it's sort of leaning towards being someone like Magneto or Professor X. But anyone that's seen Logan sort of saw how Professor X's story played out, so maybe not so much. But it's the fact that they've just been in awe of this, the guest star they're going to bring in, this actor, much maligned sort of actor. So, and Paul Bettany was desperate saying someone he's always wanted to work with, so it rules a few people out. And you can have a lot of fun with it. You can have a lot of fun trying to join the dots. But personally, yeah, I'd like to see Ian McKellen in it as Magneto, because he's Wanda's father in the canon of the comic books and all the rest of it. So that would be mind-blowing as well. It would be a cameo that would have you on the edge of your seat, because that would interlock the realities, if you like, and the fact that we saw Evan Peters, but that was clearly a red herring because he's not the Quicksilver. Spoilers, by the way, if you're not up to date with it. But
well, if you're this far into it, like,
yeah,
where have you been doing with yourself?
Yeah, but no. For the big cameo, would I go all out and say Ian McKellen? I don't know. You've got a really good theory on it. We'll probably move on to that in a minute. But I don't know. I can't really see past someone like that, like a proper Shakespearean actor that's really been around the block that everyone's in awe of. Unless it's James Earl Jones as Darth Vader, which I can't see happening. But that'd blow my. Anything could happen though, can't it?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing with WandaVision, and I read something today actually that suggested there was still 3 more cameos to come. 3 more cameos, which is mad. Now, early this week, I thought it was maybe late last week, I put out a very, very bizarre theory about the fact that I thought it might be Nicolas Cage, right? Because obviously he plays Ghost Rider in a non-MCU film. Nicolas Cage is a huge actor, and obviously anyone who works with him is probably going to have sparks with him, or fireworks, as Paul Bettany says. Most people probably want to work with him. Plus, again, it'd be another way to kind of bridge multiverses and have different characters who've played, different actors who've played these characters or played MCU characters, all kind of intertwine into the current MCU timeline, even if it's like a really small little reference. Now, also, the reason why I say Nicolas Cage is because if that book in WandaVision is the Darkhold, which we know has demonic connections with obviously Mephisto, another person who also has strong connections with the devil is Ghost Rider, because he makes a deal with the devil to continue living as the way he is. So I think that'd be really, really cool. But now, thinking about it, I've had some time to think about it, probably don't think it's going to be Nicolas Cage's Ghost Rider, but if it is, I will lose my absolute mind.
That's really good, and it joins the dots. I quite like that, because again, it's the whole demonic devil sort of thing, and it's very evident in WandaVision that they're going for something near that as well. I just have 2 honourable mentions, though, for mine. Okay, so I went with Ian McKellen. It's a bit of a sheepish one, but I'd like to see it personally. Number 2 would be that maybe if Eric Voss's friend Mephisto reveals himself, maybe the sort of idea with that is that a massive name actor sort of plays that role. Yeah. So it might not necessarily be someone from the roster of MCU sort of characters or X-Men or Expanded Universe things like the Fantastic Four. Maybe it's not something like that, but just an enormous actor comes in and goes, yeah, I'm the devil incarnate. That would be amazing. But no, my other honourable mention before we move on, Jeff Goldblum as the Grandmaster. Just shows up. Just shows up, because he's not dead, is he? So, you know.
No, and why not?
Don't know what he'd be doing there, but still, why not?
Coming and doing something. Hey, I wonder.
But yeah, no, I'd love to see that too. So there you go.
That'd be great. By the reason why I bring up the fact that 3 people have been told that they're going to show up is because this would suggest that the big cameo isn't actually that big, but it might be big for the implications of the way they're going forward in the MCU, which is what he did say. Paul Bettany did say it kind of hints at the direction they're going to go in the MCU. So, during some of the promo stuff for WandaVision, we had 3 actors show up on the live stream Q&A launch night, right? So we had we had Anthony Mackie, Sam Wilson, Falcon show up on the live stream. We also had Tom Hiddleston, Loki, on it, and we also had Benedict Cumberbatch, Doctor Strange. Now, if Doctor Strange is the big reveal and is the big cameo, then obviously it plays big implications for going forward, because we know there's going to be the multiverse of madness coming, and obviously we know there's going to be some sort of multiverse things happening in Spider-Man 3. If that's the case, if they're the 3 cameos that's going to happen, Loki's still a big cameo because he's never worked with Paul Bettany.
Yeah.
He probably might have worked with Falcon, possibly. I'm not sure how the Age of Ultron worked with the filming, but he might not have been around the same time that Sam Wilson was there. And then Benedict Cumberbatch, again, he's never worked with him, and he's never worked with Tom Hiddleston, because they've not crossed paths in that kind of way, as far as I'm aware. So again, there's 3 actors there that he's never worked with, who all could be the cameos, and Doctor Strange could be the big one. But it's weird that 3 people who are on Disney who were MCU characters were on the live stream, and then there's still rumoured to be 3 more cameos. It just kind of it crosses too many T's and dots too many I's for me.
Yeah, makes too much sense, that one.
It does.
But who knows?
But if that was the case, it's a bit of a letdown, I think, if the big reveal is Doctor Strange, because we already know that one is going to be in the Multiverse of Madness, and we already know that there's going to be a multiverse thing. So I don't think it's that big and that mind blowing. So here's hoping that it is going to be someone bigger than Benedict Cumberbatch. No offense, Benedict, we love you. So now we're going to move on to the last bit of news. Probably the biggest news that we've had this month, and probably the biggest news we've had in the last few weeks. After the cast of Spider-Man 3 trolling us, playing us dirty by all revealing names of the titles of the film on separate accounts with, by the way, some cool first looks at the film, we finally got the title of Spider-Man 3 after Tom Holland and the rest of the cast dropped a nice little teaser video of Tom Holland going into John Watts' office and claiming that they all got the wrong title, and then they walked past a whiteboard that had the title of the film. So it is Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, this must have huge implications for the MCU and for obviously this multiverse saga that we're getting. Because although Tom Holland has stated on multiple occasions that Andrew Garfield and Tom Maguire are not in this film, I think they've just trained him a bit better at lying now, because imagine revealing that before it comes out. I think I think Marvel and Sony are doing their very best to make sure that people don't find out that these two are in this film. But with the way that everything's going and just the hype behind it, it'd be how disappointing would it be going to watch it and you don't get Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire after all this? No. After all the speculation, it'd be heartbreaking for not only just big Spider-Man fans like myself, but just the casual MCU goer now, just because of the amount of hype that's been put behind it. So, my question to you, James, is No Way Home. What does it all mean?
Means something to do with the multiverse. Has to, really, doesn't it? I don't know where else you can go with... because if you think about the character, he's been to space. He's been to fight, aliens and things like that, but he found his way home from that. Now, I don't want to trivialise space, because, no one can hear you scream and all that. Massive deal. But maybe this is something that, I don't know, you look at the troubles he's faced before, and how do we advance that, and how also do we tick all the boxes when it comes to people that are actually signed on, confirmed. So we've got Alfred Molina, confirmed, it seems, and you've got Jamie Foxx's Electro, confirmed. Okay, which kind of makes me think, so you've got those guys confirmed, and how do you work them in? It makes me think that, because they're just giving you that information. I know it might not have come directly from Marvel sources, or has it? Or
it's come from very, very valid sources. Yeah. So I think it's like Variety and other sources that are pretty much on the money with a lot of this stuff.
So so that's good. But if that's a very game-changing element to the film, I would actually be sceptical about that. I think that maybe it could be some bizarre sort of, not dream sequence, because that almost feels like cheating, but like a sort of...
Or a Fall Out Boy video.
Or of course, yeah. Pete Wentz's dog the whole time. Dreamt it. So, fingers crossed for that ending in the mid-credit scene. But it reminds me of... Okay, so it's a film that didn't exist, but bear with me here, alright? It almost existed. Batman and Robin, 1997, was so bad, and everyone will know that. It's good to watch, though. But it sort of ruined that set of films. There was going to be another one called Batman Triumphant, I believe. I might be wrong. And they were going to go darker with it. They were going to have this weird... They were going to have a tormented... I don't know who was going to play Batman, but there you go. Clooney might not have been Batman, but yeah. But they were going to have like a tormented sort of Bruce Wayne who was haunted by his past. And Jack Nicholson was signed on. Rumours, but, Jack Nicholson was signed on to play the Joker, who of course died in the first film. But it was only going to be... I think the Scarecrow was going to hallucinate, and use his hallucinatory drugs on him. And he was going to see visions of Jack Nicholson's Joker, which would have been really cool.
Really cool.
So if you got... I mean, again, the film never existed. But if it existed, and the internet was big at that point, as big as it is now, it rules the world seemingly. But if you got that leak that Jack Nicholson's been seen on set, you'd think, okay, the character's dead, what's happening? But it's only because the film didn't exist and we've had these leaks that, well, actually what they planned was this and this. So I'm not saying it's exactly that, but Marvel and the people up top there are very careful about what they let you know. And my question to you would be, were you aware, MCU guy, I put it to you, were you aware, and it would have spoiled it, wouldn't it, really? So, but were you aware that J.K. Simmons was going to be in Far From Home?
No, I had no idea.
But if someone somewhere would have seen him on set, like, it would have taken a lot away, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it probably would have made my head explode. It probably would have made me think that Tobey Maguire was going to be in Far From Home.
But nor would they have volunteered that information or let it get out, like, because you'd be really cross, wouldn't you, if someone would have... That's what I'm saying. So I like the idea that we're getting all this kind of multiverse of madness stuff thrown our way. Tobey Maguire, pizza time. Oh boy, yeah, we love all that. And, Andrew Garfield and the people that actually signed on, because Tobey Maguire's not yet 100% confirmed, I believe.
No,
still a bit of a wrinkle there.
Some good sources have confirmed that he's signed up and he's now agreed, but it's not.
Well, the film comes out.
It's not the verified ones.
The film comes out at Christmas.
Yeah, but they're still filming.
They're still because imagine if he just turns around and says,
they're only halfway through filming as well, so.
This is the part where that's my problem. But but imagine if he turns around and says, "I want to put some dirt in your eye, I will ruin your film." The point I'm making is, I don't know how pivotal he'll be though. Because if it was an idea about we're going to have all the Spider-Men sort of have a crucial, in terms of like the multiverse, and we're going to, I mean, Kirsten Dunst, imagine if she signs on in secret, that would maybe blow my mind more than, maybe not Tobey Maguire, but if she showed up and it was like, yeah, I'm Mary Jane, what the hell, like if maybe she got transported from the alternate universe in and she's like just Mary Jane trying to get on with her life, and that's a very bizarre way of looking at it. But the way things fall at the minute, you cannot predict, can you? You just can't. I mean, we see Evan Peters show up there in WandaVision, which we said we talked a few months back, didn't we, before WandaVision even came out. And we were just saying this could be the starting pistol for the actual, folding the X-Men into the MCU. But then there's endless possibilities with, again, Doctor Strange opening portals left, right and centre. Who knows?
Well, this is what my take on this is. So, Doctor Strange is going to be in Spider-Man. We know this, right? Yeah. We know he can open portals. We know he can do all this kind of stuff. Tom Holland has said that he has filmed one of the most epic fight sequences in any superhero film that has ever been. Now, how cool would this be? Let's say Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire already signed on, but everything's been kept under wraps. What if our MCU Spider-Man is going to the other Spider universes and turning up in the fight sequences of them two bad guys? So the Electro fight at the end of Spider-Man 2, where he comes through a portal, he's just there, and he's in the middle of that scene, and then he goes through another portal, and he's in the train scene versus Doc Ock.
There you go.
Imagine how cool that would be. Now, and it's probably him versus whatever the villain's going to be in this Spider-Man 3 film, but them two going through portals and turning up in other Spider-Man universes and turning up during these fight sequences. So they're almost recreating the fight sequences, but with Tom Holland in them sequences. How epic would that be?
Yeah, I can get on board.
I think that's what that would be like. That'd be amazing. I mean, why they chose them two scenes. The Spider-Man 2 one, obviously with Doc Ock, is fantastic, and yeah, that one. I don't understand why I don't know why they go with the Electro one, because it's not the greatest fight sequence.
No, but again, in a realistic sort of like scenario where it's a job to certain people or whatever you want to call it, it's a very cynical look. But maybe Reese Ifans didn't want to come in as the Lizard or something like that. You know, maybe Willem Dafoe was busy. You know, well, imagine a different universe, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I mean, the Reese Ifans one would have been quite good with the Lizard where he's fighting in the school. That would have been quite an interesting one. Because
but the scale of the Electro fight though, in terms of it being
it is
quite
big, quite grand, isn't it?
Yeah, so maybe they're looking for that, and I don't know about. I like that. I think that's really good. Although deep down we all want to see Mr. Aziz and Mr. Ditkovich.
Of course, because we want to know who's been paying the rent.
Oh boy, you'll get your rent when you fix this damn portal.
Okay, right. Well, that's pretty much all the big news. So. We've done our thoughts on WandaVision, who the big reveal is going to be. We're essentially a week and a day away from that coming out. And by the time this show comes out, which will be tomorrow, which will be Friday, we are a week away from the finale. Then we've got 1 week off. We've got 1 week off after that. We've got a making of WandaVision previewing. Then the week after that, we're going straight into Falcon and Winter Soldier. So it's a good time to be an MCU fan. Thank you, James, for coming on. I believe you've got a new EP out.
Yes, well, I'm in a band called the Donaghys, and you can find us on Spotify and Twitter. We are Donaghy Music on Twitter, and I think we're just the Donaghys on Instagram there. But yeah, an EP that's people seem to like it. It's called Don't Mind Me.
It's very, very good, and it's doing very well. I believe you're getting some good radio play at the moment.
We are, but thank you. Yes, but it's been a pleasure to be on the show. I've really enjoyed myself.
Thank you very much. I've been the MCU Guy. You can find me on Twitter, ThatMCUGuyUK, Instagram, ThatMCUGuy, Facebook, ThatMCUGuy, YouTube, ThatMCUGuy. You can find me on TikTok, the British Spider-Man, and Twitch. The MCU Guy. You can see me twitching some stuff. I think we're going to try and move some mini podcast episodes onto Twitch, but at the moment I'm also doing a playthrough of Spider-Man on the PS4. Don't forget you can buy a MCU t-shirt on Etsy, so you just type in the MCU Guy when you go to Etsy. I'm going to have some new designs coming out for WandaVision, which should be quite interesting, so keep an eye on that. I'll be posting that on all of social media. But until next time with the WandaVision breakdown and review, which this is going to be pretty epic. It's been a pleasure, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye. Cool. Right, let's get you out.
Right. Cool. Excellent stuff. Arsenal bloody won in the end.
Yeah, no, the Jimmy twats. This podcast is part of the That Thing You Might Like network. Here's something you might like. Find us on socials at TTYL Network.